All right, let's get into it. Today, we're going to break down this really cool report that shows exactly how a group of entrepreneurs went from feeling totally lost on TikTok to absolutely crushing it for their business. So, have you ever looked at TikTok and thought, I know this thing is powerful, but I have absolutely no idea where to even start? If that sounds familiar, you are definitely in the right place because this story is for you. Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to look at the core problem they were facing, then the specific solution that came in to help. We'll look at the actual data, hear some amazing personal stories, and finally, the best part, we'll distill it all into a blueprint you can use yourself. So, first up, the big challenge. And this is something so many business owners face, right? It's this huge gap between knowing TikTok is a potential gold mine and, well, not actually having a shovel to start digging. The core problem for most of these entrepreneurs wasn't that they weren't trying. Oh, they were posting, but it was just random. There was no real strategy, no purpose behind the content. It was basically throwing stuff at the wall and hoping something would stick. Total chaos. And get this, it wasn't just newbies feeling this way. Look at the numbers. Over half the group were already registered sellers on TikTok, but even they felt like they were just spinning their wheels. It just goes to show you being on the platform isn't the same as knowing how to use the platform effectively. Okay, so that was the problem. Now let's talk about the solution that really started to turn things around. And this wasn't some boring, generic webinar. Nope. This was a super focused, 2-day deep dive. So this workshop, put on by CGC and INS Can, was designed for just 30 entrepreneurs. And they didn't try to cover everything under the sun. They zeroed in on the big three: creating great content, mastering the TikTok shop, and using live streaming. The goal? Super simple, but so powerful. Give these business owners a real, repeatable strategy to actually make sales. All right, the big question. Did it actually work? Well, the organizers were smart about this. They didn't just guess. They used pre- and post-training tests to get hard data. And honestly, the results are kind of wild. Wow. Okay. Just look at these numbers. The jump in understanding is huge across every single module. We're talking an average knowledge gain of 21%. That's not just a little improvement, that is a massive leap in confidence and skill. But here's the real standout: a 33% increase in understanding the TikTok shop. Think about that. That's the part that directly connects to making money. They took what was probably the most confusing technical part of the platform and turned it into a major strength. And right behind that, a 25% jump in content strategy. This is so important. It shows they didn't just learn a few tips and tricks. They learned how to think like a marketer on TikTok, how to plan, how to create content that actually serves a purpose. That's a total game changer. But numbers on a chart are one thing. What really brings this whole thing to life are the stories of the people themselves. Behind that data are some really powerful personal transformations. Let's meet a few of them. So first, let's talk about Anshik Zulfadli. He came into this program, well, let's just say he wasn't exactly thrilled to be there. He was a total skeptic. And his mindset is probably something a lot of us can relate to. He basically thought digital marketing was, in his words, trivial and tedious. A total chore, right? Something you just have to do, but it's not really that important. But then, something clicked during the training. The way the trainer explained it just made sense. It completely flipped that switch in his head. He went from thinking it was tedious to realizing, hey, this is actually pretty easy, as long as you're committed and interested. What a turnaround. Okay, next up is the story of Ensik Saradin, an Army veteran who was literally at his breaking point with TikTok. He was ready to give up completely. He was putting in the work, making content, but he felt totally lost. He had no strategy, no technique, and it was just killing his confidence. He got so discouraged he was actually thinking, maybe this whole TikTok thing just isn't for me. But having that clear step-by-step guidance, it changed absolutely everything. Suddenly, creating content and going live wasn't this big, scary thing anymore. He finally had a workflow, a method. He knew what to do next, and that structure brought all his confidence back. And finally, let's talk about Cecilia. She walked into the training with a belief that I think is super, super common. She thought the whole program was just going to be about, how to do cool edits, like learning a few flashy transitions or some little video tricks. She thought that's what success on TikTok was all about, just the surface level stuff. So you can imagine her surprise when she realized it was a full A to Z business masterclass. Her huge wow moment was the TikTok Shop module. For her, that was the piece that connected all the dots and gave her the clarity and confidence to really go for it with her business. So these stories are incredible, right? But the most important question is, what's the takeaway for us? How do we take all these amazing insights and actually put them into action? Okay, this is the good stuff. The whole training basically boils down to this powerful 5-step blueprint. 1. Think in terms of a funnel: awareness, consideration, and conversion. Guide your customers on a journey. 2. Go live and do it a lot, at least 3 times a week. It builds trust like nothing else. 3. Consistency is king. Plan for at least 1 video a day. 4. Don't wait for inspiration. Have a bank of content ideas ready to go so you're never stuck. And 5, and this is crucial, look at your analytics every single week. See what's working and do more of that. This is literally the roadmap from chaos to clarity. I mean, this whole case study just proves it. With a solid plan and the right knowledge, anyone can cut through the chaos of TikTok and build a real successful strategy. So it leaves us with this final thought. Looking at that 5-step blueprint, what's the one thing, the single step you're going to take starting today to bring that same clarity to your own business?